For a standard human body, the biological rules are strict. After 4 or 5 minutes without oxygen, the brain begins to shut down. Open your eyes underwater, and the world is a blurry, unfocused mess. Climb high enough into the mountains, and your lungs will starve. Walk out into the midday heat of a desert, and you will eventually collapse. Yet there are people who break every single one of these rules. There is a diver who can hold their breath for 13 minutes straight, a child who sees perfectly clearly at the bottom of the sea, a hunter who can quite literally outrun a cheetah. Historically, outsiders heard stories of these physical feats and wrote them off as local myths, tall tales, or magic. The truth is entirely grounded in biology. The human body is an active, highly responsive organism. When pushed against the most unforgiving environments on Earth, it physically rewires its own biology to survive. Take the Bajau people of Southeast Asia. They live their entire lives intimately tied to the ocean, residing in stilt houses built directly over water. To feed their communities, they free dive down to 70 meters. They spend over a dozen minutes submerged, calmly walking along the seabed with a spear. Left is a normal human spleen. Right is a Bajau spleen, nearly twice the size. When descending, this enlarged organ acts as a reservoir. It squeezes, pumping a massive, concentrated burst of oxygen-rich red blood cells directly into the bloodstream. What makes this extraordinary is even Bajau members who never dive have these enlarged spleens. The ocean environment has shaped their genetic makeup over generations. A few thousand miles away, along the coasts of Thailand and Myanmar, the Moken people have developed a completely different adaptation to the water. Underwater, a normal eye on the left fails to focus because water's refractive index scatters incoming light. Moken children, on the right, physically constrict their pupils and change their lens shape, forcing light into a sharp focal point on the retina. While the Bajau's ability is an inherited physical trait passed through their lineage, the Moken's underwater vision is a form of learned biological plasticity. Through years of early childhood training, their eyes learn to override the standard limits of human sight. High-altitude environments present a different physical threat. Climbing into extreme mountain ranges, atmospheric oxygen drops by half, leaving typical human lungs starving for air. Populations living in the Andes survive this extreme high-altitude environment by overproducing hemoglobin, creating thick, oxygen-heavy blood. It keeps them alive, but it forces the heart to work much harder, leading to severe cardiovascular stress over time. Tibetans have lived at similar elevations for thousands of years, yet they do not suffer from these dangerous cardiovascular side effects. Looking at this respiratory system model, we see the effects of a specific gene variant called EPAS1. Instead of thickening the blood, this gene keeps Tibetans oxygenated by increasing their baseline respiratory rate. They take more breaths per minute, pulling sparse oxygen from the air efficiently. Simultaneously, the gene floods their system with nitric oxide. This naturally dilates their blood vessels, allowing blood to flow rapidly without thickening. Geneticists found that this precise DNA sequence didn't originate with modern humans. It was inherited through interbreeding with an extinct relative called the Denisovans. By mixing with a species that had already spent millennia adapting to the cold, thin air of the north, Tibetans essentially acquired a pre-existing survival kit for life in the mountains. This ancient inheritance allows the body to gather oxygen at a higher rate, keeping the blood thin enough to flow without straining the heart. Down at sea level, the sun-baked African savanna requires entirely different survival strategies, specifically for an ancient practice known as persistence hunting. Most fast prey animals can quickly sprint away from danger, but they cannot cool themselves efficiently while running. Humans have a unique biomechanical advantage. We sweat, expelling body heat while in motion. The Maasai people optimized this advantage. With lean bodies, long strides, and massive lung cavities, they maintain a punishing running pace for kilometers. They track an animal until it simply collapses from heat exhaustion. This endurance is paired with intense sensory conditioning. Hunters from the Hadza and San Bushman tribes read faint footprints to determine an animal's exact speed. They can read the surrounding soil to locate hidden water sources locked in roots deep beneath the dry earth. There are no distinct DNA mutations making these hunters run further or track better. Relentless generational conditioning and environmental observation push standard human physical limits to their absolute peak. We often assume that human evolution came to a halt the moment we built modern cities and moved indoors, but biology is constantly adjusting. These tribes demonstrate that adaptation takes two paths. Some changes are etched permanently into the genetic code, while others are flexible adjustments the body learns through a lifetime of exposure. The people breathing the thin air of the Himalayas and outrunning animals in the desert aren't relying on magic. They are all living proof of our unbroken, dynamic capacity to adapt to the harshest extremes on Earth.